You know, it's been said times before that we have to be divine scientists. We have to be divine physicists. And for us to do what it is that's there for us to do, we have to know the workings, the chemistry of life, or what we call the Tao, or the Dharma, or the will of God. So you'll excuse if we get a little bit technical today, in order to put things in perspective, and perhaps to answer that question that's been posed to everyone, and that is, what is the relationship between our auric field, that which is in constant movement, and that still center? How do they work together, this void and that? And just to go back over this old saying that was quoted so many times before, and maybe look at it a little analytically, and that is, take all perceptions from the sensual, the aesthetic, and the transcendent levels of mind, and bring them to the subtle level of body, speech, and mind. The body of appearances, the speech of vibrations, and the mind of awareness, from where they will flow down the columns at the side of the spine and meet to rise up as our thoughts and our deeds. Now, we all know that this basic level of mind, those three levels, the sensual, aesthetic, and transcendent. The sensual is that which contains all of toing and froing, cause and effect, action and reaction. The aesthetic is that intuition that flashes through. Everyone has intuition, whether they admit it or not. And the transcendent level is that level of mind that so many try to attain by putting on their earphones and listening to some thumping music. That's this transcendent level of mind at that base level. So you have those three levels constantly coming together, sometimes in one and sometimes uniting. But then, looking at that subtle level of body, speech, and mind, the body of appearances, the speech of vibrations, and the mind of awareness, we know that that level, that subtle level of mind, is what we call Sat Chit Ananda, existence, knowledge, and bliss, or living in a state of grace. But we know, because we've been there, what we had to do to bring the perceptions, the experiences of life from those base levels of mind up to the subtle level of mind. We would use a mantra. We would have the experience and we would say, oh, well, that's all God's business, or something of that kind. We would use our mind to consciously bring our experiences up from that base level of mind up to the subtle level of mind. But now we don't have to. Because we know that we are living in a state of grace. A state where every experience or perception that is taken in at that subtle level of mind, at that level of Sat Chit Ananda, because that's where we abide. But then those perceptions, or that perception, because perception is only one, pass down the columns at the side of the spine, the yin, the yang, positive and negative, and meet at the base of the spine. And we know that it's not like a blue and a red and it comes together and makes a purple and rises up. It meets at the bottom of the spine, and cancels each other out. And then thoughts and action follows. What happens? What happens at the base of the spine, so to speak, when the perception has been taken in at this subtle level of mind, passed down the two columns, subjective and objective, and met at the base of the spine? And what's happening? Because that's movement. And what they're reaching is a state of stillness, because this point at the base of the spine is always still. Wherever we are, it is. So what happens at that point when our perceptions, passing down the two columns, meeting, cancelling each other out, but something happens there? Surely we know it's the impetus of that perception which causes it to rise up the spine. But what happens when it reaches that base point? So perhaps if we look at this and be aware of our experiences now, we can get a gleaning of what it might be that answers that question. What is the relationship between our auric field and that still center? Master Chow Chow was a great Zen master. And one day he had a visit from King Sun. But when the king arrived, the master was still in bed. And so the king was brought into his chamber. And Master Chow Chow said, You'll have to excuse me, I'm getting old. I have not gotten up to greet you. But the king wasn't affronted in any way at all. In fact, he was even more respectful of Master Chow Chow. But the very next day, the king sent an emissary, a general, with some gifts for the master. And when his presence was announced, Master Chow Chow got up, put on his best regalia, and went out to the gate to greet the general. Well, the master's acolytes, students, were very surprised. And they said, Master, we don't understand. When the king came yesterday, you stayed in your bed and greeted him, and today a mere general, and you put on your regalia and meet him at the gate. We don't understand. And the master said, I have 3 ways of greeting people. Someone of importance I greet with my ordinary face. Ordinary people